conversation that I can go on for a lot of hours. We all have things that when we're passionate about things, we can get very detailed. So, Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue Unit is a totally volunteer organization. We have, clicker to work. Most of our missions that we do are searches. Some teams, they do a lot of technical rescues, but our world is mostly in searches. We get the call. They normally come in about 10 o'clock at night, and last night it was 9, but that's just when the phone rings and says somebody didn't come home on time, and that's just the nature of the beast, and it's a good thing, and I'm glad that people call. Fortunately, last night it got canceled just a few minutes after we got the phone call. We do cross state lines. We've been to multiple states, and that is quite a compliment to the unit. Idaho is fortunate to have as many people like this group that are willing and dedicated to what we do. So we've been called into Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Washington to help with missions in other counties. So some of the specialty teams that we have as a unit, you have to be a member of the regular unit, and then you can be on a specialty team. So there's man tracking, the search dogs, the canines. We have search management, which plays a large role. We're fortunate that we have a bigger unit with people that have been doing it, so other counties will help us, or other agencies, Boise City Police, the Forest Service over on the east side of the state have called us to help with large project searches. We have some resources because we've been doing it a while. First aid, we aren't the paramedics, but I'm dangerous with a Band-Aid, I'll just put it that way. Technical rescue is one of the things that we're fortunate to have some people that are very skilled, used to be part of that team. I'll support it now, but I won't be leading the charge on any of those. Safety education, we do a lot of this. Kids, adults, snowmobile clubs, ATV clubs, what's the community education. A lot of different things that we will go out there and have some fun with. Equipment and tools, pretty straightforward. Most of the stuff we carry. We have a few tools. We have a couple trucks. We have a search command trailer. We don't have boats. We don't have helicopters. We don't have planes. We don't have any of the big expensive stuff. We have other people to help us with that if they are available. We get to train year round. We meet every single week for general, either a meeting or a training, and so every Tuesday night is ours, and then one weekend a month we train, and then the specialty teams train generally between 1 and 6 more times a month on top of that. So it's a pretty large commitment of time, and I'll tell you the training is fantastic, because when you do get called, where it's okay, jump on the helicopter, which is not very often. It's kind of fun to talk about, but it doesn't happen very often, which is actually a good thing. But it's nice to have the training in our back pocket, and the agencies have been fantastic to work with and help us in the training. We look for hunters, we look for people that didn't come home. We don't know the reasons. We've had Alzheimer's patients, we've had autistic kids. It's in town, it's in the hills, it doesn't matter. We go lots of different locations. Off the ropes, we've done evidence searches for crime scenes and helping with the police department. We've got lots of toys that we'll play with. Again, we talked about planes and such. And one of the hesitations, put the slide in there, services are free. It's call. 3 a.m. I show up on a scene. There's a gentleman that hears us coming. His car had slid off, and it's about the balmy temperature we have outside right now. And he catches us before his car, says, "How much is this going to set me back before I say yes?"
Oh, wow.
Lifeline.
Nothing. You're nuts. Loaded up his family, and away we go. Some
His
people
family
actually
was with him?
don't call because they're afraid they can't pay the bill. So that's how that works. We can only respond if an agency calls us. So if somebody calls, they call 911, we respond because the sheriff's office called us. The sheriff is responsible in every single county for search and rescue. And so they call us, so it's called 911, they call us, and we dispatch. We have been called by the National Guard, we have been called by the Forest Service, but another agency has to call us. Everybody goes to the corn. If anybody goes to the fair, please stop by and buy corn. That's our fundraiser for the year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's
good to know.
That's
Yeah.
well over half our budget for the year. We spend a lot of time, but that's our world to raise money to go with that. So now I'm going to switch hats. So tracking, Steve asked to talk about tracking. We had a conversation about tracking. On the specialty group, we are certified. If you were in the tracking group, we're certified by an outside agency, Joel Harden Professional Tracking Services. I happen to be serving as the president of that group right now. And this is an outside certification by somebody who's been doing this for a number of years. And think of tracking like a fingerprint. Everybody has a specific track. The way you wear down your shoes, the time of day that you went there will tell us if it was you that was there. And it will tell us if you were there yesterday, last week, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. So it's something, it's not rocket science, it's something that just takes patience to learn.
Your foot track.
Your foot track. So we are following people around. So it's just about evidence. So what was there? Every time you put your foot down, you're leaving evidence. And what we work on it with, what I've had the opportunity, so again, it's all search and rescue. This is not a magic pill. It is something that is very specific. We don't replace the canines, we don't replace the general searcher. We are an added resource to it. So it's been, I've worked on every kind of one of those situations that you'll see on the board there. And it is just a tool, it's another tool in our arsenal to help find a result. In a simple, what we'll teach in search management, when we get to a scene, you figure if this post was the scene, the person was last seen there. They can go anywhere in this circle. So we've got 15 people. Where do we send these 15 people? They've got a one-day start. Sometimes they've got a 4-day head start on us. And so what the trackers do is we go to the place last seen, and we go to the center, and we start narrowing down which way they went. Because then we can put all the resources in the direction instead of 15 people going a lot of different directions, we can send it in a general direction. Now, as a tracker, and as somebody search and rescue, there's a lot of people that have a lot of kind of that adrenaline thing. I probably maybe am one of them, we'll see. But you want to get to the finish. I have never got to the subject that I've been tracking first. So we get a direction and then the canines get there, or the ATVs get there, or whatever, and it doesn't matter. Our job is to find the person that was missing for whatever reason. So it's really a cool resource to find that closure of what happens. When we talk about seeing tracks, anybody see a track there? It's about using lighting. That's the same piece of dirt there. So it's understanding how to use the lighting, that tread pattern, and then we can go through and see, was it today, yesterday, whatever, because the dew and what Mother Nature will do, the track will change over a matter of days. So inside, we change the lighting, track shows up. Outside, if we're out there, this is a headlamp. Most common hikers, we're all wearing headlamps. And when we're standing there, we're walking around looking for the tracks, it's not there. Change the light angle, there's the track. So we can see which direction they went and go from there. How am I doing for time?
You're good.
Okay.
You got plenty.
I got plenty of time. Oh, scary thought, I do 3-day classes. So,
Can you pass that copy, please?
it is understanding what we're working with. When you go through leaves, we crush the cellular structure of plants when we step on things, and it changes it. So this is called bruising. Certain leaves, when you turn them over, you will see. So that's a lug pattern off of boot. It will we can do by measurements and by wear, we can confirm if that is our subject. So if multiple people went through, they might have the same boot, but they will wear them. The wear is a little bit different because some people walk on the outside, some people have a little piece of mud stuck in their lug. It will change the track that is left there. So we can identify who is there, and that also tells us how long ago. The cellular structure of the plant heals, just like you scratch yourself, you start getting a scab. The brown lines and things on plants will change, so that will tell us how long ago it was since the person stepped on it. So I'm trying not to stand in front of you. Where does tracking work? So Steve and I had the conversation a little bit. This is my one and only international trip that I was able actually to go on. This is a 2-hour conversation we're going to do in about 6 minutes. And I can't pronounce the name, and if anybody's good at Japanese, please help me, because I am curious. I've just never been able to get that through. So this was a call, 41-year-old male, University of Wyoming professor that went missing. We get the call, he's been missing for a week. They've had hundreds of searchers searching every single day. This island doesn't have an airport. This is, you've got to go to Tokyo and a couple other islands, and then you take a boat to get to here. So it's a little tiny place. He was walking through and looking at and doing some research and writing about volcanoes. So this island happens to have an active and an inactive volcano. So team got a call, so we're in there. I think it's been a few years. I think it's day 8 or 9 is when we show up on the island. This is where somebody dropped the individual off, and our team was able to pick up 3 of the team, 2 out of Portland area, 1 out of Seattle, got there about a day ahead of me. And so they were able to get to where the trail started and pick up his track. So the other people had found no clues. Fortunately, in Japan, this gentleman was a little taller than me, and Americans walk differently than a lot of Japanese, and he wore a very different style of shoe. His stride, his character, the way we walk is also part of what we will identify in tracking. He was in a hurry. He was trying to get to the top to this volcano and back in the same day. And they said it's going to be really close and it likely will be dark. And he went anyway. So his objective was to get up there and back. He doesn't take anything. There's no survival gear, nothing. He's just going to go up and back really quick. Don't worry about it. I'm fine.
Those are not good words. Hold my beer.
Not a good plan.
And almost all of us have gotten away with something in our world. It's over something, but anyway. So the team tracked up towards, that's the volcano that is up there. And the team tracked up the hill, so it all made sense that where he was going. The tracks were a little over a week old and got pretty close to where it was hot. A couple of their boots actually started melting. So they tracked, that was the first day. So I'm there now on the island. We catch next evening and we start tracking. We pick up the line of sign on the other side. So if you look down, this is shortly after the gentleman left the main trail and is heading down. And it looks just like rolling hills out there. And you can see a road in the distance, and it's not dark yet when this person, we can tell by people's characteristics whether it was daylight or dark. It was going to be a new moon that night, and it was clear skies, probably 50 degrees at night, if I remember correctly. So pleasant evenings, but there's a road in the distance. So this person, it was still daylight, and my opinion is that he looked at that and said, oh my gosh, I'll just keep walking down. It's rolling hills, I can make it, it's not very far. Makes a reasonable argument, actually. So we start going down, that's 2 of the trackers that were on the team. Vegetation changes off and on, it gets to be very heavy and dense, I'll say. We're crawling through this stuff, single file, making sure we don't miss any single step. And we find where the person goes in, and they stop, and they find out they get too much of a dead end, and they have to turn and go back and forth. There's a lot more to this story that I have to skip. This is evidence, and I am not a good photographer, and so don't ever pin me that I'm a good photographer. This is a track, and we were able to confirm, and the picture doesn't do us justice, but this is, I understand what I'm seeing. There is different things as far as there's a little bit of a scrape right there, and in the dirt right there, there was a lug line in there. Some of the things that we find are probably about the size of a pencil head, that we can confirm where they were, but the way the leaves were flattened out, the dirt was compressed right here, the log was scraped, that leaf has some bruising on it, that was all, by then, about 10 days old. It was between 10 and 11 days old, is what we were going through. That was another track that we found later, I believe next day or same day. And again, you can't see it in particular, but that was part of our evidence that we brought back, and we could get actually a full track. The length, the width, we could count the lugs in the sole to come up to confirm with what we were working with. This is a ledge. So this is one of the last tracks that we got. That's actually a cliff. It doesn't look like a cliff. And when the subject went through here, it was dark, and we could tell. The reason we could tell was because when it's light, you walk around things. This person did not have a flashlight. This person did not have a headlamp, did not have any light, and it was a new moon, and they were bound and determined, later found out from his brother that we got to spend a few days with, that he'd been stuck before, and he promised he would never stay out overnight again, because he almost died by hypothermia. So he made a commitment he wasn't going to do that, so he's going to walk. So when it was dark, he was just busting through the brush, busting through the trees and the cane. And so it was, we could tell what happened, and so he couldn't see the cliff coming. And when he was up top, you couldn't see a cliff. Looking at it from the other side, there is a crevasse in there. So we went down into the bottom, and again, you can't see it. The crevasse was a couple hundred feet down, it went across, it went back up. Our subject was not at the bottom, not at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Two of us have some technical experience. We did not go over there on a technical mission, and I am not a Japanese expert. The local law enforcement has a policy of searching for 3 days. They had extended it many days past 3, and we were absolutely confident we had him here. He's not there. They said, thank you, go home. Invite us to leave. So there was nothing else we could do. It had been enough days, so now we're up to, I think it was 12 days that he'd been missing. We knew what happened to here, so our evidence took us to there. So that was as far as we could go with that. Our job is following evidence. So what happened after that step, I can't speak to that, because I just don't know. But it's a mystery, and it gnaws at me a lot. But that happens. But hopefully it helped the family understand what was going on. And there's lots more to this story that's always fun for me to talk about. But that's what tracking is. We get to go out. This is part of the tracking team, so I'm on the far left. We had an interpreter next to me, and then a couple of trackers. We had 2 locals that were very comfortable in the island, and they were fantastic to have because they would tell us where the dangerous spots are. But again, it's a volcanic island, and these things just open up. And over the years, greenery showed up, and it's what it was. Very interesting experience to go over and do. So that's tracking. That's search and rescue. And so, open for questions or comments as much as you would like. Yeah.
When you were sent to Japan, was it because of he was from Wyoming and that's your region?
No. Okay, good question. So, we went to Wyoming. We went to Japan because the tracking service is separate from Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue, and so we have an international team. And so the family paid for our expenses. We donate our time. And so they contacted the tracking service, and they put a team together and formed us with.
So
Yes.
I take it law enforcement had jurisdiction. If the family's paying for it, why couldn't you have scaled that cliff to maybe train?
Yeah, good question. We were personally running out of time because we committed a week. and 2 of us had some technical experience, 2 didn't. And they did, again, the people there were so generous, and they showed up with, they found a couple ropes off the bottom of a shed floor. No, I'm not putting my life on that.
No.
And so it was time. They did send some people back, but it was a couple months later. And I wasn't there, so I can't speak to everything, but they haven't recovered anything that I'm aware of.
They still haven't recovered?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
And we did a lot of studies on that, how it disappears. I mean, it just, Mother Nature takes over.
Yeah.
So with the international network, I heard different states, people from different states came. So is that volunteer?
Yes, so the tracking program that we're part of, all of us are part of a regular search team in our local counties. And so, and really Boise County is where a lot of people in Ada County go play. And so Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue is really Boise County search team. Elmore County has their own search team. But we don't belong to any sheriff's department. We're completely independent. That's why we can go many places. The tracking program, we have trackers across the U.S. and some international. We train military, we train special forces, we do, so totally separate from Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue. So we do search and rescue teams, military and law enforcement, train them how to track further locals. So we've got them scattered across the way that who is available. And it's a really interesting email to get, say, Dan, can you go to Japan?
No, that's what I thought. What do you do
Call
the
me.
next 10 days?
So, besides the fact that one should not assume that you get in and out in a day when you do stuff like that, and you should be more prepared, is it true that it's always better to stay in one spot if you cannot see where you're going?
Qualified answer. So, any attorneys here?
Yeah.
Jane,
So does that help me? So if I say, if you know, I'm qualifying the answer that it's not definitive. It's
We're in a safe zone here. It's
Oh.
lawsuit free. It's fine.
I just gotta make sure. If I'm doing my medical talks, I have to make sure if I got attorney or medical people, because then I'm gonna come. So, if nobody knows that you went there, nobody knows to look. So, if somebody knows that you went there and you're already pretty messed up as far as where you're at, it's likely good to stop and get into a safe place and be as visible as you can when you can. That's as general as I could put it. Staying close to water is, loud water is tough because it's searchers that were yelling, you can't hear them. But as a rule, we've had both where people stayed put and it really helped, and we've chased quite a few that kept, we knew where they were supposed to be and where the people thought they were going to be, and they ended up being miles away. So if people know where you're going, I would say stay put, because between the canines, trackers, when we have a space, we even set up a containment area. And if you get outside that containment area, it just slows down the process. Because we'll work this one and then we'll change the boundaries again.
What's the,
I'll come back.
what's the farthest time out that, like, somebody was last seen or known whereabouts that you've been able to recover them? What's the longest duration?
Personally,
Glide.
6 weeks?
Wow.
6 weeks? Wow.
Yeah.
That's
What was
pretty
that?
fast.
A recovery or rescue?
Recovery.
Recovery.
Oh.
How about rescue?
Rescue, I think my longest one is 6 days through horrid blizzard conditions.
Wow.
So, and one of the pictures of the mess, turned out to be a friend. I didn't know till day 2 he was a guy I grew up with. He and his wife were out there. So, yes.
Do volunteers have to have a baseline skill set, or would you just train anybody who's willing to do it?
We will train anybody, and because they took me, and my wife is involved as well. So she's a journeyman tracker in the program, just like I am. So when we get the call, that kind of comes in handy. Is like, it's not, well, somebody's leaving. It's like, where are we going? Changes the attitude. But it takes just going and showing up, and we have the meetings every Tuesday, and then you decide whether it's a good fit for you. But the training to get through a full cycle, it takes a couple of years to kind of get through all the general stuff, but you can be mission ready in probably a few, 3 to 6 months to do certain things. And there's just different jobs. Some require very physical demands and some don't, because we've got to have people help with communications, we have perimeters and setting up vehicles and different things based on what the mission is. And I never know what the mission is till I get there.
Yeah, is it all volunteer?
Yes.
Is it?
Nobody's paid except for right here.
Yeah.
Have you had any volunteers that have been injured or they're in that process, or has the training pretty much protected the group from?
Being one of the search managers, that's my primary, and it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. How to get everybody home safe for every single time. We have bumps and bruises. We've had one, I will say, not horribly serious injury in the last 16 years, 17 years I've been doing it. But most dangerous is for search and rescue is getting to and returning from the search scene. Falling asleep at the wheel, coming home, because generally we get the call at 10 o'clock at night, you've been up all day. Your adrenaline will carry you. Most of the time we get done about 3 o'clock in the morning.
From what I've seen on TV, when you call into the sheriff's office for missing persons, they say that it has to be 72 hours or something. Does that apply to you, or do they call you immediately and say, we got a call, we just can't officially do it?
I don't know how exactly every dispatch office, but again, if they say there's an urgency list they go through, and there's an urgency list we go through. So if it is young, elderly, or ill, it's an urgent mission, and we just buckle up and go. And it generally takes, from the time we get the call until we're on the road, generally 60 minutes. And then however far we got to drive. But generally, if you call and say, hey, somebody, my spouse is on the hill, and he was supposed to be back at 10 o'clock, this is not like him, and I'm really concerned that he's either lost or hurt, they'll generally call us, and we go through the urgency, and so it all cycles within about an hour. So it's not a 24-hour waiting period. And then if it's a snowmobiler and they say, hey, they're really geared up, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning when we get the call, and we calculate, okay, so the snowmobiler are well prepared and all that, and we get to the interview and they say, they're probably okay till 8 o'clock in the morning, we might not leave until 6. And we won't call the team until 5:30 or 5. Hopefully they get a little bit of sleep before we dispatch them. So we just make a little bit of discretion calls.
How often do you get calls?
We get about 24 a year. And you never know when. I'm usually wrong. Think we're gonna get a call? Nope, no call. No, we should be good, you get a call. Because nobody plans on this. And we got one Thanksgiving night, and we got one last night, but last night's got called back, and had them on birthdays and anniversaries. You just don't know. So if you can't go, you can't go on the team. So there's about 100 people on the team, and there's generally about 12 to 15 that can go. I've been on some that there's been 3 of us.
Wow.
So
Are hunters the majority of the lost people?
not anymore. When I started, there was more
Bikers,
hunters.
hikers, there's so many people.
It is, some years it's snowmobilers. Some years it's people stranded in cars that went in the spring or the fall and got stranded on a road, hit some snow or something. Sometimes it's been a rash of, it's been horseback riders that got injured. It could have been, we had kind of a run of autistic kids that got us in a pickle, and they called us. One year was mushroom hunters. So I never know. Every time I think I got it figured out, I'm proven wrong. So we just don't know. And generally, some people will laugh about, well, what idiot did this today?
Anybody can happen.
Yeah. Almost everybody we go after,
You're gonna be an idiot one day.
squared away, understand, experience. They have it figured out. They had a bad day.
Yeah.
They fell down, they got hurt, they got disoriented, because I'll tell you, when you're out there, if anybody has spent a lot of time in the woods and never been lost,
They're lying to you.
You said it. Yes, sir.
So my brother-in-law's father was stuck in McCall for, was he said 5 or 6 days, a year or so ago. Were you guys part of that search team?
I
They
don't
were.
know. I've
They
been
were.
on, I've
They
been
were.
on team, I've been on searches in McCall. So I don't mean to be crass. I've been on a lot of searches and I've got to now put them all together to figure out where I've been. I've been on hundreds of them.
And you said you search through cities too, like if a
Mhm.
person's also, is it harder to search in a city?
Just different.
Just different?
And it's really fun to listen to your group and what you do, because it truly is, for me, just on a personal note, you watch the news and it's, oh, this is horrible and this is awful and everybody is just, evil and mean and all that. You get out in the communities, whether on searches in town or in the hills, I'll tell you, people are phenomenal as a rule. Rare that we have anybody that's not first class. What can I do to help? What can we do? I mean, time, resources, place to sleep, whatever. It is fantastic. So it really is neat that news is not reflective of our real society.
Inspiring.
My personal opinion.
Yeah. The news being wrong. Who would have guessed it?
Well, if we don't have any other questions, Dan,
Thank
thank
you.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
It's
Thank
very
you.